Those who refuse the gift of eternal life are condemned to wander in the darkness of eternal night. Coming this fall from SJS Direct. If you have watched any of my videos with the promotional ad for my new novel, Eternal Night, you know that I have made the statement, those who refuse the gift of eternal life are condemned to the darkness of eternal night. Now, the reason why I made that the promotional campaign for my new novel, Eternal Night, was because I wanted to emphasize the spiritual relationship that the vampire has with the devil and how the vampire has forsaken the Most High living God. Because oftentimes in many vampire stories, they don't want to focus on the spiritual aspects in order to sell to a broader audience that does not want to discuss issues as related to spirituality or issues as related to the Most High, because many in the entertainment business don't want to talk about the Most High. However, if you go back to Bram Stoker's Dracula, you would see that the vampire Count Dracula clearly made a deal with the devil after his wife died in order to gain immortality. And that compromise is the unforgivable sin. Now, what is the unforgivable sin? The unforgivable sin is when a man or a woman decides to reject Jesus Christ, who is offering his gift of salvation to mankind, and willfully and intentionally turns his back on Jesus Christ and his gift of salvation after numerous offers, and walks away from Jesus Christ and walks away from the living God. That is the unforgivable sin, because here is the Son of the Most High offering you a chance at salvation as a sinner and a chance to find redemption through Jesus Christ. And this individual decides not to take that gift of salvation and decides to walk away from the living God. And that is considered the unforgivable sin in the eyes of the Most High living God, because here you are, a being born in sin and shaped in iniquity, and instead of you seeking out the Son of God to find redemption and salvation, you decide to reject the Most High living God and his Son, and that is considered unforgivable in the eyes of the Most High, and it leads to you winding up becoming condemned. Now, the person who becomes a vampire like Count Dracula, they believe that there are actual benefits to walking away from the Most High and walking away from God's gift of salvation, because in their eyes they see benefits to being involved with the devil, and that's what Count Dracula thought he was going to get as a benefit. When his wife died, he decided to renounce the Most High living God because he wanted to experience life after death, and he wanted to be able to experience immortality on this earth. So he did not want to enter the next world where men would be transformed by the living God into perfect beings. He thought he had perfection right here on this earth. And because he coveted life on this earth, your Dracula was one of those beings who made the spiritual compromise with the devil in order to gain what he thought would be eternal life here on earth. He wanted to be immortal on this earth and receive the life that people would get in the next life today. So that's why he rejected God and that's why he wanted to go with the devil. And the devil went and transfigured your Dracula into this undead creature, this being that while his flesh is dead, his spirit is still alive, and his spirit is completely corrupted. And his spirit is corrupted because he has given himself completely over to that sin nature, and he's completely accepted that sin nature as a part of himself. So he does not want any part of the living God. He does not want any connection to the living God, and that is why the vampire is an unholy and unrighteous creature, because this creature has decided to make the devil its father, and it has decided to follow the lead of the devil and not follow the living God and become a part of the Most High's order or the Most High's kingdom. Now, in addition to making this spiritual compromise, what also makes your vampire commit the unforgivable sin is the fact that as he becomes a part of the devil, he follows the philosophies of the devil. And your vampire, following the philosophies of the devil, wants to be a part of an order that is unnatural, and be a part of that satanic order. And in that satanic order, what they want to do is mock the living God, and the way they mock the living God is through their lifestyle. Now, this whole thing about drinking blood and blood being the life, that is a mockery of the living God and the sacrifice that Jesus made on the cross, because Jesus shed his blood for the redemption of mankind. And what the vampire does when it drinks blood is expressing contempt for Jesus and the sacrifice he made on the cross. So a lot of people think, oh, he's drinking blood because the blood is the life. But what's behind that is this vampire is drinking blood to express contempt for Jesus' sacrifice on the cross and the blood he shed, and to mock Jesus for shedding that blood on the cross. So that's where that portion of the blood comes from, and it also comes from the blood being the life. And the blood is the life because the blood that Jesus shed on the cross is what is the reason why we have the gift of salvation and the chance at eternal life. So the vampire is making a mockery of Jesus' sacrifice on the cross and the redemption of mankind, and it's in some ways like throwing a middle finger up at Jesus for making that sacrifice. And that's all part of the satanic covenant that the vampire has with its Lord Lucifer, and that covenant is similar to what he talked about in the Last Supper, because in the Bible it talks about in the Last Supper man taking the cup of Jesus that he's taking right now, and the similar thing that's mocking it is the whole vampire and his compromise as spiritual compromise when he goes out here and joins the covenant with Satan. So a lot of people, they don't really see what goes on as related to this vampire and what these things represent as related to the Bible. And I wanted to, in Eternal Night, show how these things relate to the Bible, because this vampire, it is a demonic creature, and it's a demonic creature that represents the worst in humanity. And this is something the Apostle Paul talked about in the Romans in chapter 1, verse 28, when he made the statement, "And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient." And one of the things that these type of people want to do now that God has given them up that is not convenient is not seek out Jesus, not seek out the Most High, and not seek out the gift of salvation. These beings believe that they are going to do better on their own. They believe they're going to do better with the devil. And they want to go out here and seek out these things that are not convenient because in their reprobate minds, they believe they are going to do better going outside of the order of the living God. And they believe they will do exceptionally well in the order of the devil. And that's something people don't really talk about in most modern vampire stories, because most modern vampire stories, they want to reach a larger commercial audience, so they don't really want to focus on the spiritual aspects as related to the vampire. But with Eternal Night, I really wanted to explore those spiritual aspects because many people need to understand what this vampire is, what this vampire represents, and what this vampire is really about. This vampire is a demon. This vampire is a being that is a soldier of Satan, and it is all about doing reprobate things, and it is also about recruiting people into into Satan's order and corrupting their minds. So this is not a being that is about renewing a person's mind spiritually. This is a being that is in darkness, and it is in darkness willfully and intentionally, because this is a being that does not want to know God, and it does not want to go out here and wait for God to bless them. No, they want the benefits of the eternal on this earth, and because they want those benefits of the eternal on this earth, they will make a spiritual compromise with the devil instead of seeking out the Most High living God who created him, and the Son of God who paid their sin debt in full and paid the ransom that was on their spiritual eternal life. They don't want that ransom. They don't want their sin debt paid in full. They want to continue to remain in that sin debt. They want to continue to remain in bondage. And these are beings that believe they are going to enjoy the benefits of life here on earth as immortals, not understanding that the Most High living God has a time for this world to end and a time for his Son to return to this earth. And that time is designated by the Most High. And when that time comes, these beings will be put in judgment. But that's not something they can see, because these are reprobate beings, and reprobate beings, all they think about is the hedonistic sins they can participate in and the power that they have physically given to them by the devil. But they're not understanding that everything that was given to them from the devil is a lie. So that's the unforgivable sin that these vampires have participated in. They're thinking that by rejecting God, they are going to do good. But what they don't understand is when you reject the Most High and you walk away from his Son's gift of salvation, then you are condemned to wander in darkness, not only on this earth, but in the world to come. And that's one of the things that the Lilith Graves character comes to learn in her journeys on the dark road of the undead inside of the novel Eternal Night. And I wanted to really show how this Lilith Graves character, who was a part of the church, wound up on this dark road in this eternal darkness and is looking for a possible way out. Now, in the next video, I'm going to talk more about the pastor's daughter, which Lilith Graves is, and how the pastor's daughter can possibly wind up on the road to darkness, even though she is in the place of light. Now, if you want to learn more about the spiritual aspects of the undead, like I have discussed, you can pick up my new novel, Eternal Night, which is coming to paperback the week of October 20th, and will be on Kindle Unlimited on Halloween. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Given to temptation, pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today.